Om Kayena vacha manasyendrayirva Bhutyatmanava prakriti swabhava Karomi adyat sakalam paresma Narayana samarpayami Narayana samarpayami.
Dear Seeker of Truth, welcome. This is a very auspicious moment. We are going to talk about Bhakti. Bhakti, divine love. So we are going to talk about Bhakti as the essence of all spiritual paths, as the soul of all spiritual paths, and also as a path in itself, Bhakti Yoga. So this is a work made by sage Shandilya, the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras. Not much is known about this Shandilya, only that he was a sage, a God-realized being that gone through many other philosophies and finally got to the nectar-like Bhakti as the soul of it all. So Sage Shandilya had a very intellectual approach also. He was concerned about getting from the different authorities, the different scriptures, the validity, the importance of Bhakti as a spiritual path. So he gathered that all and shared it. So may you all find divine love in your hearts. May you all be blessed by this auspiciousness. May you all find God. Moving on, Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, second chapter, Sutra 27. But before this, small introduction. As this devotion cannot be produced by direct effort, there is need of other means to produce it. Among these, knowledge is the internal means, lower devotion, etc. are the external means. So, in this second chapter, we are going to investigate it. So, in the absence of pure bhakti, purification is needed so that pure bhakti can flood the heart. So, Sutra 27. The path of Gyan or knowledge and the path of karma, these rituals, are to be followed until purity of devotion is attained, as shelling the rice is continued until is dehusked. So all the spiritual practices should be undertaken until purity is achieved. So everything with it which is available, rituals of worship, meditation, concentration, all these things should be taken. Tapas, austerities, vows. Well, we will go through all of this point by point. So to understand, Parabhakti, pure bhakti is causeless. It has no cause. It is the nature of the soul. It is the nature of God. You cannot produce it. But what you can is purify yourself so that bhakti can flood your heart. So pure bhakti is causeless. When it rises, it floods the heart of the devotee. But in its absence, purification is needed. Knowledge of God, secondary devotion, like rituals of worship, meditation, austerities, etc. All spiritual practices should be practiced till purity. So, as in all spiritual paths, as you are, for example, practicing meditation with an intent of realizing God, of self-realization, whatever is your goal, it doesn't work like that, because that doesn't bring that. What it brings is purity. It purifies. So discipline is very important. Meditation is very important. Especially these days where everything is so twisted, where the mind plays hide and seek and convinces you that it is doing its best, it is always for the best reasons, but it isn't. So discipline, meditation, austerities, all this is very important, coupled with devotional practices. Well, this shouldn't be separated of devotional practices. Everything is a devotional practice, but we will go into these specifically. In the Bhagavad Mahapuran says, I have prescribed 3 types of yogas in the Vedas. Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. There is no 4th type of yoga. So long as one does not develop devotion for me with due faith and reverence, all rituals and ceremonies and deeds and knowledge go in vain, because devotion is the purpose of them all. But these should be practiced until purity is achieved. When it is achieved, when that pure devotion floods the heart of the devotee. So this Karma Yoga, dedicating all actions to God, serving God only. And the Jnana Yoga, knowing about God, learning more and more about God. It has different branches, of course, but it is about tuning with God through your mind, for example. And meditation, intense meditation. Austerities are also very important because it purges impurities and it brings the needed strength to counter evil habits, bad habits that erode your soul, that make it corrupt. So discipline is very, 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 very important. Those who, abandoning the path of unalloyed devotion to God's holy feet, the source of true well-being, labor for dry, abstract knowledge, path of Gyan, for its own sake, meaning for knowledge, for power, for self-importance, for sums up. Toil in vain like those who pound empty husks of paddy. So this means that when they are following the spiritual path, without devotion as the main part, then it is a useless undertaking. So abandoning the path of devotion just for knowledge by itself is just an egoic undertaking. And it feeds pride, arrogance, and all these things. And this is countering devotion. So in terms of what is the purpose of all these practices, it is like doing nothing. But it isn't, because as you are upgrading the already existent layers of pride and arrogance, you are becoming far and further away. Isha Upanishad. He who is addicted to the path of abstruse knowledge enters a dark region than he who is without knowledge, becomes dry and hardened and pride and arrogance. Yes. So sometimes the worldly man is actually in a better place than the spiritual man that is going after the knowledge for the knowledge itself. And we can see this in many realms, many realms. So for example, these days, there's a lot of mixing, a lot of things, and people have no clue what they are doing. And going here and there, and probably not a good idea to enter this subject now. But it's a lot of confusion and a lot of corruption to certain extents that they are not aware. And in a sense, and this has a heavy price, and in a sense that worldly person is in a better spot, because even if he goes to these places, he is unaware of the spiritual part. So he is not that touched by it. With knowledge comes responsibility. The Gita says, the Bhagavad Gita, exceedingly great is the toil of those whose minds are attached to the Nirguna Brahman. Without bhakti, Gyan cannot be purified. So, exceedingly great is the toil of those whose minds are attached to Nirguna Brahman. It says it all. Therefore, so long as one does not follow the path of unalloyed devotion, due to eclipsed knowledge, one may take oneself to either the path of Karma Yoga or the path of Jnana Yoga. But without bhakti, no purification of heart is possible. Bhakti is the sine qua non of the cognized soul, totally free from the quagmire of Maya. So these paths, the Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, which has the yogas all inside, without bhakti, without devotion at its core, at its helm, as a goal, it will not bring purification of the heart. And with that, nothing else worthwhile is achieved. A lot of things may be achieved, but nothing worthwhile. So you become more knowledge, apparently more wise, because you start understanding the laws of nature, the spiritual laws and all of that. But God realization or self-realization, no. The practice of the means of knowledge is necessary until devotion becomes pure, and that is the goal of all. So all these practices, they have become very important in the absence of purity. So the gopis, for example, didn't need it. There was purity in their hearts, and they recognized Krishna as an incarnation of God, loved him, and they achieved liberation. They achieved constant God communion. No knowledge involved, no spiritual practices, none of these ones. But these are rare, so all spiritual practices should be kept until purity is achieved. So now going to the context of the majority of the spiritual seekers. So whatever path you are following, they are all means for devotion. Devotion is the purpose of them all. And this is the life of the spiritual path. And without it, it doesn't go anywhere. But for the worldly character, this is good that it doesn't go anywhere, because like that, he can maintain his little life, doing his little things, taking care of his little needs, desires, and all of these things. So the strong desire for liberation, which was the only thing that Shandilya says it is needed. By itself, when it is strong, it brings the rest with it. But if you know about these things and you take care of them directly, then it goes much faster. So attachment to God means also detachment from the world. And the discipline of meditation, and we will go to the practices, because, not practices, it's different. As we enter the realm of sacredness, the term practices, we cannot use it, we will use it to explain, but you shouldn't look at like this, because it is a means to God, so it is sacred. Sutra 28. When they are subservient to bhakti, they should be followed. So when all these other paths, when they are subservient to bhakti, when they have bhakti as a goal, when they are aligned with bhakti, serving the purpose of bhakti, they should be followed. Because if they are not subservient to bhakti, it means they are serving other purposes. Other purpose that counter your spiritual goals, the spiritual goal. So they should be subservient to bhakti. They should be about purification and about devotion. This is what they should intend. And if they do not intend this, then it will do more harm than good. More or less, it's complicated, because even by themselves, without being subsidiary to bhakti, without having bhakti as a goal, they also bring purification. If you can manage to put intensity, not everything. Yeah, these days, it's almost, everything is more or less twisted. So, and you have to understand that you are your enemy and you want to twist everything so that you can maintain your worldly goals and pretend that you're on the spiritual path. So meditation is one of these such practices that if you practice with intensity and discipline, it can bring you out of that slumber. Then we are going to enter the mantras, the names of God. And as you are coming to the presence of God through the name, with meditation and discipline, this becomes a very, very powerful means for purification and for God communion. So in the previous aphorism, we came to know that neither Karma Yoga nor Jnana Yoga can make the soul cognize with intuitive wisdom the realization of the Supreme Godhead, because it misses the link between the Jiva and God, and that is love, devotion. But at the same time, we know they are prescribed as a means by God Himself. There's no contradiction here, because God is reaching His hand to everybody, independently on their level of consciousness and awareness. So there's a means for everybody. Therefore, the Upanishads say that Maya is seen as a wife, and for a karmi, Prakriti is like a dancing girl alluring the passion of the mind. For a jnani, that wife is to be divorced. Whereas for a devotee, she is to be taken as a faithful wife, a mutual helpmate to evolve perfection in life. Because for a devotee, everything is God. Everything is God. So it is like a wife, a holy wife. Let's make it like this to improve it a little bit, as it should be. So it is said that to be free from all adjuncts of Maya, viz. I-ness and mindness, and fully spiritualized, engage all senses in the loving service of Godhead. So if you want to be free from the adjuncts of Maya, from illusion, from the sense of I and mine, then you have to engage all the senses and the mind serving God through everything, without making this separation of worldly life and spiritual life. So all life must be about serving God. The divine fruit of this all, which is self and God realization, is easily had in following the path of bhakti, because that is the direct path. So a wise man would focus his mind to know what bhakti is and how it should be practiced. All other paths are subservient to bhakti. They are subsidiaries of bhakti. And this is, again, because of these three paths that God has given: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. But all of these paths, if you dive into them, you will find devotion there as the core of them all. It's not that explicit, because, like I've explained previously, for many it is unthinkable, devotion, God, and all of this. So there are all these other paths there that allow them to come closer, to purify themselves. But devotion is the core of them all. So it is all a path of devotion, with apparently different philosophies directing, but it takes to the same place. If there's no bhakti, then none of these many paths to attain blessedness and God realization would bear a ripe fruit. Yes. Without the bhakti, there's no spiritual path. There's no path towards God. There's no path towards liberation. It is just more of the same. Okay.
Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, tvameva bandhushka sakha tvameva, tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva, tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva.